Life has a way of hiding truths beneath layers of love, trust, and betrayal. This is the story of a man who gave his heart, his name, and his life to a woman he thought was loyal, until a simple DNA test turned his world upside down. His name was Michael. A quiet man in his early 30s, Michael lived in a small American town where everyone knew everyone. He worked as an accountant, lived carefully, and believed deeply in the values of honesty and commitment. He was not the kind of man who sought trouble. He believed in building slowly, family, home, and a future filled with peace. Then he met Angela. Angela was different from anyone Michael had ever met. Beautiful, charming, and bold, she carried herself with a confidence that drew people to her. For Michael, it was as if she walked right out of his dreams. From the moment they met at a church picnic, she laughed at his quiet jokes and held his gaze longer than anyone ever had. It was fast. Too fast. Within weeks, they were inseparable, going to dinners, long drives, and talking until the early hours of the morning. Michael's friends warned him, "Slow down, you don't know her well enough." But Michael waved their concerns aside. For the first time in years, he felt alive, desired, and important. 3 months into the relationship, Angela broke the news. She was pregnant. Michael remembered the moment vividly. Angela had held his hands tightly, tears in her eyes, whispering, "Michael, you're going to be a father." His world stopped. A storm of emotions hit him, fear, joy, and a strange sense of responsibility he had never felt before. Though it was sudden, Michael told himself, "This is it. My time has come. My family starts now." He embraced her, promised her he would stand by her side, and soon enough they began planning their future. A small wedding, a cozy apartment, late-night talks about baby names and what schools their child might one day attend. To Michael, it was a dream come true. But beneath the surface, something darker was brewing. Angela's past was not as spotless as she claimed. While Michael was pouring his heart into preparing for fatherhood, whispers began to reach him. Friends who had once stayed silent began hinting that Angela might not be as faithful as she appeared. He brushed it off. He trusted her. He wanted to trust her. He had never been the suspicious type, and every time he looked into her eyes, he saw sincerity, or so he thought. Months passed. The pregnancy progressed. Michael attended every doctor's appointment, held Angela's hand through the discomfort, and worked extra hours to make sure they could afford everything a newborn would need. The day finally came. Angela gave birth to a tiny baby boy. He cried when he held the tiny child for the first time. He looked into his baby's eyes and whispered, "You're mine, my son, my everything." But not everyone shared his conviction. Whispers grew louder. Friends, colleagues, even Michael's sister began pointing out that the baby didn't resemble him at all. They spoke in hushed tones about Angela's past relationships. Michael defended her, sometimes angrily, insisting that love was stronger than gossip. Still, doubt had begun to creep in. One night, months later, Michael found himself staring at his son as he slept. The child was growing, but the resemblance to Michael was faint at best. The doubts gnawed at him, no matter how much he tried to silence them. And then, almost by accident, a colleague mentioned something that shattered his fragile peace. Angela had been seen with another man around the same time she had met Michael. Michael's heart sunk. He didn't want to believe it, but the thought echoed in his mind, louder and louder until he couldn't ignore it anymore. He decided to do something he never thought he would. He bought a DNA test kit. Quietly, secretly, he swabbed the baby's mouth one afternoon while Angela was at the store, mailed the package, and prayed for the courage to face the results. Days turned into weeks. Every night he wrestled with guilt. What if he was wrong? What if his doubts destroyed the very family he had built? And yet, what if he was right? Finally, the email arrived. His hands shook as he opened it. The words were clear, undeniable. The child he had loved, cared for, and called his own was not his biological son. Michael froze. His mind went blank. The room spun around him. He read it once, twice, 3 times, hoping he had misunderstood. But no, the truth was staring back at him, merciless and final. Angela had lied. Everything, her tears, her promises, her insistence that he was the father, was a carefully built lie. To her, it was easier than facing the shame of the truth. But to Michael, it was betrayal of the deepest kind. Michael's world had shattered. The woman he loved, the child he thought was his own, the family he believed he had built, all of it had been broken in one evening. He walked out of the house that night, leaving Angela sobbing on the kitchen floor. His mind was a storm of pain, anger, and confusion. How could she do this? How could she betray him so deeply, so casually, and then expect forgiveness? But as the days turned into weeks, Michael realized that the DNA results were only the beginning of his nightmare. Angela refused to let him walk away quietly. She insisted that, DNA or not, Michael was the only father the baby knew. She reminded him of the late-night feedings, the hospital bills he had paid, the way the boy smiled whenever Michael walked into the room. Fatherhood isn't about blood, she pleaded. It's about love. But Michael wasn't ready to accept that. Not yet. Michael's family was furious. His sister urged him to cut ties immediately. "She lied to you, Michael. She used you. Don't let her trap you for the rest of your life." His parents were more conflicted. His mother, with tears in her eyes, said softly, "But, Michael, that baby knows you. You've raised him from day one. Maybe God brought him into your life for a reason." Friends were divided too. Some told him to walk away and never look back. Others told him to take time, think carefully, and not let bitterness consume him. But none of their words brought him peace. Things grew darker when Angela sought legal counsel. She argued that Michael had established paternity by conduct, that by acting as the father from birth, he was legally responsible, regardless of DNA. She demanded child support, custody rights, and financial obligations that left Michael stunned. How could he be forced to pay for a child that wasn't his? But the law was complicated. In many states, courts often favored the best interest of the child, not the DNA results, and Angela's lawyers argued passionately. Michael is the only father this child knows. Removing him now would cause irreparable harm. Michael suddenly found himself in a battle he never imagined. The courtroom became a battlefield of emotions, accusations, and tears. Angela painted him as cruel for wanting to abandon the child who saw him as daddy. Michael fought back with evidence of betrayal, lies, and the undeniable DNA test. Each day in court chipped away at him. The man who once believed in love, trust, and loyalty was now drowning in legal documents, lawyer fees, and sleepless nights. The emotional conflict. Despite his anger, he couldn't silence one thing: the bond he had with the boy. Every time he heard his tiny voice say, "Daddy," his heart cracked. He remembered the first time the child had gripped his finger, the way he ran into his arms after work, the nights he stayed up rocking him back to sleep. The DNA test had told him one truth, but his heart whispered another: "This child still needs you." Michael stood at a crossroads. Should he walk away from both Angela and the child, protecting himself but leaving behind the bond he had built? Or should he stay, not for Angela, but for the boy who saw him as a father, even if the world said otherwise? The turning point.
One night, exhausted from the battles, Michael sat alone in his apartment. He stared at the court papers scattered across his table, his hands trembling. That's when his phone buzzed. It was a message from Angela. She had sent a video of the boy sitting on the living room floor, holding a toy car. In the video, the child looked up, smiled, and said, "Daddy, come home." Michael broke down in tears. For the first time, the anger melted, and all he saw was an innocent child, blameless in the lies and mistakes of adults. The child didn't ask for this. He didn't choose who his parents were. He only knew that Michael was his father, his protector, his safe place. The final decision. In court, Michael made his choice. He stood before the judge and said, "Your Honor, I cannot change the truth of the DNA, but I also cannot erase the truth of my heart. This child may not carry my blood, but he carries my love. I will not abandon him." The courtroom went silent. Even Angela, shocked, broke down in tears. The judge ruled in Michael's favor for shared custody, recognizing both his rights and responsibilities. The child would grow up knowing the truth one day, but also knowing that love, not just biology, made a father.
Drop your thoughts in the comment section. If you're Michael, what would you have done after going through such incidents? Do well to hit the like and subscribe button. But to get more stories from Innocent Files,